Good day and welcome back to the Student StarCraft AI tournament. This will be the broadcast of the round of 8 and losers round 2. From losers round 1 we had a defective replay, but let me tell you the result, and that is that Alien unfortunately lost to Tier Protoss, and Tier Protoss will be moving on to losers round 2, and Alien sadly will be seeing again next year. Then I'd like to thank our sponsors, which are sponsoring through Patreon, which not only make this tournament possible, but also promote and finance the AI brood war in the Czech Republic. I'd like to thank especially Alexander Seidel, BitcoinForks.io, Björn Lindberg, David Hansen, Gabriel Seneyev, Matthew Pitiak, Michael Sesta, Newbie Edge, and Rossum.ai. So what you've all been waiting for is the round of 8. And the round of 8 looks like this. We've got Ironbot making 2-0 over Zerzer, Microwave taking out Neo Edmund Zerg. Ironbot being the only Terran contender in the round of 8. Then Eric Hammer versus Team Hammer, Nice Zerg versus Zerg. And then Rave versus Cherry Pie. We'll be looking forward to that. And then Killerbot versus Ximp, which will be a battle of the golden oldies. Then, without further ado, let's hop into Ironbot versus Microwave. And for those of you who missed this, the quarterfinals are best of 5, so this will be a marathon broadcast, especially since I'll also be attaching the losers round 2. Therefore, pardon me for speeding up the initial stage of the game, because we are looking at, for only the round of 8, a potential 20 games, and that's quite a lot. So Ironbot is here with the nice wall off, and Marines are popping out on the inside, which is good. And the Zerglings are all over this, and there are only 2 Marines, oh, the Marines aren't fighting. Where are the Marines going to get their input into this game? And Microwave doing a lot of damage, really draining the mineral resources of Ironbot. Ironbot's build order has come to a standstill. The Marines are still not fighting. The second depot is going to go down. The Lings are all over this. Is there going to be a follow-up? Yes, more Lings are being sent over. The Lings are loose in the base and going after the 2 remaining Marines. Ironbot still with not enough money for whatsoever. And the Lings are going after the SCVs now. The SCVs cluster in a tight defense, but I fear that the Lings are just too much at this point. The SCVs have been damaged, and the Zerglings are going after the racks as well. There is not enough money for a Vulture, and this is what it looks like if you don't let your Marines shoot at the enemy. Nicely put. And no more reinforcements from Zerg. Zerg is macroing happily away, building some tech, building some drones. But the 7, 8, we've got 8 Zerglings have things well under control. The refinery and the factory are falling, and then everything that's standing between defeat and victory for Microwave is this 1 barracks. That is the GG! Microwave taking the first game of Iron. That was really unexpected, because Ironbot has been kicking asses for so long. Microwave really with the nice pressure, doing itself a lot of good. This is a best of 5, so it will need 2 more games to win. And scouting drone is going to go in, but just thinks the better of it. Moves back to base. And here come the Lings again, and oh dear, there appears to be some kind of logic error, but now we've got a lot of SCVs repairing. The problem is, as long as these Marines are not firing, such a lot of money is being wasted by Ironbot that it's severely hampering its build order. The factory is up, and again the war gets busted by the Zerglings, and Iron really has some kind of weird issue. Now the Marines are coming into contact with the Zerglings, but the kind of contact they don't really like it at this point. And more Lings are being sent over. All the SCVs are dispersed. The Marines are wandering around with 1 sliver of HP left, and it's a game of tag. You can't really win as a Marine. We've got 1 Vulture, and unfortunately there is no more workers, and the Vulture is being set on by so many Zerglings. Ling speed is done, of course. The Vulture dies, and the last SCV is going to fall prey as well. Ironbot kicks it, and Microwave takes the 2-0. Third base up. Ironbot really needs to get its stuff together, because this Zergling pressure is really kicking its ass at this point. And Microwave seems to have found a hole in Ironbot's armor And there we go. Again, we've got the 9 pool. And Ironbot is really being very, very cautious in his build order. Depot first, then barracks. It doesn't really appear to be learning from this aggression. And I say the wall is nice, but these Marines really... I can only hope that they will this time fire at these Zerglings. If not, I fear we will see a repeat of the first 2 games. And there we go, the depot is under attack, and still you can see these Marines are messing about. They are not getting into the action. And with 4 SCVs versus now 8 Zerglings, will the Marines have enough surface to repair? It looks like it, and the factory is done. So yeah, now the Vulture is started, and perhaps, just perhaps, if these SCVs can hold on long enough, the Marines are firing, the SCVs are blocking. Where is that Vulture? Will Iron have enough to stay in this game? The Marines are now trying to find a target. Some Zerglings are dying at least. The Vulture is out, and now everything that stands between total doom, being 2-0 down and moving on into the next game of the round of 8, is this one Vulture. The one Vulture is doing great. It's killing Zerglings left and right. 1, 2 Zerglings left. The Zerglings are retiring. There is a Marine too, but the Zerglings headed out of there. And now this one Vulture has saved the bacon for Ironbot. Ironbot being under such an enormous lot of pressure. That's really something you don't see all day. And now the Vulture is moving out. Let's see, Vulture speed is starting, and once Vulture speed is there... Oh, and now with the Link speed, but the Vulture does quite a bit of damage as well, so it might actually win this, although it will lose a sliver of health each time it turns and fires. But meanwhile, another Vulture is being started, and although this one looks to be chased to its death, another shot going off. That's pretty well done. And where is Vulture speed coming in? It's not yet done. The Zerglings, oh, the Zerglings let off. That's really unfortunate. What's happening behind this in Microwave's base? We have got the natural drone count pretty low, but Iron's worker count pretty low as well. We've now got 2 Vultures though, and with 2 Vultures and an SCV, the natural is defenseless. And there goes the worker, there goes another worker. And Iron is camping the natural. I'd really like to see 1 or 2 Sunkens here. Until they are up, these drones here are utterly defenseless. And Iron is looking to stabilize a little bit. Worker count okay, and maybe because Microwave is losing such a lot of drones. And that can't be good. Really could do with a Hydra or a Muta or anything with range versus these ravenous Vultures. The Vultures don't really dare engage these Sunkens, but as units are being built at the natural, nothing else is following. And that's mainly because Iron is just intent on rebuilding its infrastructure. So I think that with the Zerglings, no, not really. Microwave might have a chance if it gets these Mutas cleaned out of its base. It's 2-0 up. But once you let Ironbot out of a box like this, you are going to be in for a pretty hard fight. Now, we've hit another stage in the rock, paper, scissors games, of course. Zealots beat Marines, even or especially if they are not fighting. Then you've got the Vultures over Zerglings, and then you've got Hydras over Vultures. So the big question is, what is going to happen next? Hydras haven't got any upgrades at all. The Marines are severely bugged out. I don't know what that's about. At least in a bunker, the only thing they can do is fire, and they will actually fire. And now the Vultures are tearing down the Hydra. That's pretty bad from the Hydras. No Hydra upgrades coming up, and a lot of Lings dying. So Iron's getting a lot of purchase. Got 14 versus 2 army supply. Microwave, what are you doing? Building 2 Sunkens. That's good, because it will take Iron a while to get any kind of tank going. Or it could just build one. But for the time being... Oh, and Iron's found another hole in the armor of Microwave. Microwave is only 6 workers, and the last Vulture dies. Only 1 worker remaining in the main. But with 6 versus 29 workers, it's going to be a hard fight. And this is what Iron is good at, is playing the contain. And if the contain is there, as any player can tell you, it is very, very, very hard to shake that off. Army supply 22, worker supply 30, 3 Sunkens, it's okay. The big problem for Microwave is that its worker count is 7. and it's slowly being replenished, but still nothing mining at the main. And we've got the first tank coming up. We've got a turret, and Microwave still's got nil army supply. It's trying to go for any kind of muta composition, but right now we've also got a lot of anti-air already. And Ironbot is all over this. So the natural gets pillaged once again, and the third is operational. The natural is up, lots of tech, lots of units. Ironbot, once you let it get out of the box, it can be as domineering as this, and the last muta dies. We'll have to let it play out, because of course Ironbot might still crash, but now the tanks have cleared the path to the high ground, the ramp. I think that Microwave's base will be a history relatively shortly. So it is a 2-1 for Microwave. And again, we've got a map with a huge, long distance. So if these bots are going for the same build order again, which is a 9 pool into Zergling pressure, and I think it's going to be with Zergling range, and Iron is going to do a nice wall off again. This time the Marines though will exit on the other side, and that means that Iron will have to lift its barracks for the gate mechanics. Oh, and the scouting drone gets killed. And now again we have the Lings, and the repair is not on time. So, and I don't know why the Lings are going after the depot. Perhaps it's some kind of bust mechanic, and now this Marine can kill the Zerglings. But more Zerglings are coming in, and now they're going after the Marine. So it looks like that the depot in this kind of situation has got a very, very, very high priority for Microwave. And this depot is going to fall as well, and now we'll have Iron have enough for the defense. The factory is there. There are not enough minerals for a Vulture, or now there are. The Vulture is started. Naturals being put up by Microwave. Microwave going for more Zergling aggression, and Iron is really not impressing me at the moment with his defensive skills. Of course, it's always been more about harassment and doing stuff with Vultures, but even at this level, you might expect a little bit more for defense. And now it's going, the one Vulture is going to town on the Zerglings, but the workers are being engaged as well. And the worker count for Iron is 10 versus 7, and I think that is good. It shouldn't lose too many more workers. This Vulture's got things well under control. It should be careful not to get attacked too directly. The workers are getting low though. The workers are getting very low. And the Vulture with the repair, and it doesn't have speed, and Lings have speed, so oh dear, all the workers for Iron are dead. We've got one left, and we've got this one Vulture doing business, and only 3 Lings. There is no reinforcement coming in, and this Vulture might still do it. 4 Zerglings and 1 SCV. It would really mean the world to Iron if this SCV could be kept alive, because that would be half of its worker force. And now it is 2 versus 10 workers. The natural is up for Microwave. It's going for a very quick refinery. Might do with a fat round of drones. And Iron is left with no barracks, with a factory, with a half-built depot, I think it is, and 2 SCVs. It is mining money for something. We'll soon find out what. And it is going for Vulture speed, so that its one Vulture might be in a good position to do things. And all the Lings, the 4 Lings, are coming back to help and defend the drones. That's a good decision. And perhaps Vulture speed might get done by this time. And the Vulture doesn't get caught. It gets out of there in the nick of time. And it's microing its ass off versus these Zerglings. And 1 Zergling left, only 1 Vulture left. But Ironbot, in the meanwhile, is able to build another Vulture. And speed is nearly done. Where is the hero Vulture, which brought back this game from the brink of death for Ironbot? That is really so impressive. And another Vulture coming in. So, although the natural is completely undefended, the main is sort of defended. We've got a Hydra Den. And the Vultures can't really get in here. They could go round the back. And if this Sunken gets up, I think it's all but game for Ironbot. Ironbot should really be thinking about building a worker or 2. Some workers may be lost. But there is a Hydra and a Zergling. So I think that this Vulture is taking some damage from a drone as well. That is not good enough. And with the Hydra, and this will soon be sunken, I think that it will be safe from even 2 Vultures. Now SCVs are being rebuilt. That's good, but I really doubt that it's going to be enough. The sunken is up. Worker saturation is okay for Microwave. It's 14 versus only 3 workers. Hydras are coming into play. And I don't know what this is, but it's going to be great. So let me remind you, because I don't have a fancy overlay, that Microwave is 2-1 up. And if it wins this game, it will be in a sterling position to take the match over Ironbot. Who would have expected that? And we already had so many Terrans in the round of 8. Ironbot is the last one. So Ironbot's now fighting for its life. I can only hope that there will be mines soon. Doesn't look like it. Worker count is okay. The workers can beat down one Ling, looks like. Yes, they can. And the vultures are delaying the Hydras and should be able to out-micro the... oh dear, what did I... oh god. Arrgh! No! God, this is... Sorry, I froze the interface and we were about here. Oh, okay, so I can't really fast forward to a position. But if you click on these buttons here at the top, you can no longer scroll, and that's a pain. So I took the liberty to restart the game and scroll back. Sunken here, still holding. We've got the Mutas coming up. We've got the Spire coming up. And the Hydras have got things well under control. So Ironbot appears not to be long for this world. This one Vulture is trying to do what it can. And what can it do with a sliver of HP and 6 hungry Lings on its tail? All the buildings fail and then they are gone. So that is that. Microwave beating down Iron, and that is really impressive. So what else have we got? We've got Eric Hammer versus Steam Hammer, and I won't be updating this live because I'm all by myself and not casting this live. So Eric Hammer versus Steam Hammer coming up, and you will have to have... occasionally I will say what has happened and what is yet to come. So, Moonglaive IC Cup version 2.1. We've got Eric Hammer versus Steam Hammer, and this is a battle of the top Zerg. Steam Hammer, which is based on the University of Alberta bot by Dave Churchill. Steam Hammer, of course, being a project of Jay Scott, has been forked into so many bots that it is really a pleasure to see that Brute Warrior AI is finally getting more standardized, and if only I expect in 2018 that more effort will be made to reuse modules of these different Steam Hammer or Steam Hammer or based bots to be used amongst themselves. And we now see a handful of Lings for Eric Hammer and more drones on the part of Steam Hammer, and Eric Hammer with the early expansion. I think that's good. Might also build a sunken. And Steam Hammer is just going for a lot of Lings of 2 hatcheries. 2 hatcheries here as well, and a quick lair. And you can see that Steam Hammer's got the Ling advantage. Upgrade-wise, both have got Zerging speed. Steam Hammer's is done, so it will have a tiny window, but the Sunken is up. Another Sunken is being started, and now Steam Hammer, although it's got the Ling advantage, can't really break this defensive position with these not optimally placed Sunken colonies. You can... oh, but all the Lings are dying for Eric Hammer, and Steam Hammer is busting through. It's going to town on the Sunken, and all the drones are coming off the line to help and defend, but there is just nothing there. It's 4.5 versus 1 army supply, and although the Lings are fighting for what they are worth, I think that Steam Hammer with this Ling aggression has done it. There are 3 workers still, but they can't really make up their mind what they're going to do, and if you don't plan, someone else will plan for you, and if that is a hungry Zerg like Steam Hammer, it will plan your death. And that is exactly what it's looking like. Eric Hammer dropping the first game, losing the first game to Steam Hammer. And let's go into game number 2. Same matchup, and let's see if either of these bots can capitalize on the other's weakness. Will Steam Hammer do the build again, which has served it so well last game? And more importantly, will Eric Hammer try and do something else? It took an early expansion and didn't really pay enough attention to defense. Again, we've got the quick expansion. Again, we've got the quick extra hatchery for Steam Hammer. And Eric Hammer is trying to do this like the first game. The pools will be done in about the same time. Main difference is that the hatchery for Steam Hammer, and Eric Hammer are up at exactly the same time. So it's a bit of a mirror match. but Steamhammer was just more committed to attacking than Eric-Hammer was to defending. Eric-Hammer attacking a little bit too hard. And Eric-Hammer losing the first 2 links, and that's quite instrumental because although 1 link of Steamhammers is damaged, 2 links of Steamhammers are damaged. They regenerate quite nicely, and link speed for both players. Steamhammers is done, so Steamhammer will have an advantage in micro, and of course has got more production. We've got, what have we got? We've got the quicker lair for Eric-Hammer, but all the links for Steamhammer and more are coming. It's going to be bloody soon, and Eric-Hammer had better be able to defend. This is 3 army supply, the Zerglings are dropping, and this Ling is hiding until it's got enough HP left. And now Steamhammer is going for the natural hatchery, which I think is a good choice because you will limit the larvae production, but thus the Zergling production. And although the lair is finished, it's nowhere near spire building or completion time. And Steamhammer is just overrunning Eric-Hammer again, which is not learning. Steamhammer now has finished its lair, is building a spire, and it's also taking the natural, but this game is over. Because all the workers have been killed again, and with the same build orders, Steamhammer is coming out on top of Eric-Hammer again. Here goes the extractor, and that is the GG. Last game, last chance for Eric-Hammer to do something about this crushing Zergling build of Steamhammers. And this is what the future of AI in Brood War might look like, because this Zergling aggression is so very, very marvelous if you can throw a couple of 1,000 APM at it. And Eric-Hammer is going for a 10 hatch with a 9 hatch for Steamhammer, leaving the gas intact. And so we'll have a mirror build again. And Eric-Hammer being queued with the extractor trick to get 1 more to delay the Overlord production, but then it means that you've got this Lings thing in your base long, and the first 2 Zerglings are dropping again. Eric-Hammer now fighting Lings with drones, that's never good. And again we'll see that Steamhammer has Ling speed done earlier and will win, not quite decisively, this Ling battle, but now will also be able to kill workers with Zerglings. And Ling speed done, not even started for Eric-Hammer because Eric-Hammer has got no drones left mining minerals. It looks like Steamhammer will be taking this game in style and thus 3-0ing Eric-Hammer. So if everything goes to plan and Steamhammer won't crash, it will be a flawless victory for the Zerg coded by J. Scott. And J. Scott really deserves the work. Not only is he a scholar and a gentleman for making such a beautiful thing and making it so well documented and available for everyone wanting to code Brood War AI, its bot is a force to be reckoned with and is now making it into the round of 4. Congratulations, Steamhammer. So going back to the table, we saw Microwave eke out Ironbot in 3-1, Steamhammer dropping Eric-Hammer 3-0, and now we've got McRae versus Cherry Pie, and I can't wait to see that. So back to the replay viewer. First game in, and this of course is OpenBW by TSEMU and Imp42. It's a beautiful piece of Brood War engineering, and although the Brood War API will be integrated in Brood War High Resolution, the new Brood War Reloaded, I don't know what it's called, rehacked by Blizzard, which will be awesome. Until that, and about a year before that, we had OpenBW, for which I will be eternally grateful. So let's not make it too quickly, because a lot can be told about these 2 bots. McRae had been the solid number 2 on the ladder for the last couple of months, and just behind Crazio. Crazio decided not to participate in this tournament because he was not completely convinced he had done all he could with his bot, despite being 200 ELO points up versus McRae. But McRae was a good second, and although Cherry Pie only joined the ladder for testing, it has been improving steadily over the round robin. If you want to see games of Cherry Pie there, I do encourage you to watch that, because it's very, very, very beautiful to see. And okay, well, finally the Zealots have had enough of this drone spitting at their main nexus, and the scouting probe just makes its way out of there, getting a lot of information and delaying the Zergling march onto the Protoss base. Protoss, meanwhile, going for a lot of hatcheries, and I think that's going to be a Cybercore. and with a couple of goons you'll be in a much better shape to deal with all these Zerglings. And Cherry Pie can't really get its game off the ground because all the Zerglings think that this this probe is a threat. Probe gets itself cornered, but just makes its way out of there, and behind the minimap it dies, so that's silly of it. Couldn't show you that. And the Lings make their way out of there versus the Zealots, and the Zealots are in a good position to fight. They've got this huge damage, and the Zerglings now cower behind the Sunkens. The Zealots don't really care, or they do care, and they decide not to get involved with that too much. Now we'll see a 14 versus a 4.5 army supply, which is worse than it seems for Cherry Pie, because Cherry Pie has got these 3 Sunkens, and Cherry Pie has arguably got the best decision making and combat micro in the world, and I can only hope that this game will progress to a stage where it can demonstrate that Gosu skill. McGrave waiting a long time for taking natural, and it might as well, because with 10 Zerglings, Cherry Pie isn't really going to do much, spending a lot of drones and resources on these 4 Sunkens by this time, and building, as it always does, a nice number of hatcheries to be able to put out a lot of units. So without a natural, as a Protoss, you're going to be struggling quite a bit in the mid-game, because your income curve is going to look like this, and only then going to go up, while of course with 2 bases, Cherry Pie, which can balance workers and defense and army like a champ, is in a much better position. Large Protoss army by this time, and they could make a stab at this base. Cherry Pie going for a 3rd base. Protoss might try and do something about that, or finally take a natural, because otherwise it's going to get very, very hairy very shortly. And a 5th Sunken being morphed for Cherry Pie, and Protoss doesn't really dare commit to an attack. I find that strange. Let's look at the upgrades. We've got Storm starting with 1 base. We've got range, Zealots, leg speed and Zergling speed. So with Storm I think McGrave could do pretty well, but it would be nice to have quite a bit of gas, i.e. a natural to support that. Especially if you're going to throw the old Zealot away at these Sunkens once in a while. And behind that, although it's only 26 army supply and the Protoss army supply is much more potent in its fighting power, this 30 army supply in Zerglings is nothing to be sniffed at. And the 3rd is now up, and McGrave doesn't really pursue these Zerglings into the 3rd. And a couple of Zealots and Zerglings die. And I think that this time ticking out is in the favor of Cherry Pie, and only now something else is going to be done about that, because the Templars are entering the fight, and with a couple of well-placed storms on the Zerglings, on a large batch of Zerglings. The Zerglings only got 35 HP. Oh, the goons catch an Overlord. That's well done. And this is where you got to be careful, because these Zerglings are really a force. And where is the bloody High Templar? We've got... oh, that's a probe. We've got... where is the High Templar? The High Templars are not there. Have they been sniped? The Zealots can do quite a bit of fighting on their own. And the Protoss army is getting out of control. A lot of these Zealots are damaged though. And I was sure I saw a couple of Templar. Where are the bloody Templar? Now the natural is up for Protoss. And Protoss got a big army. The thing is that Zerg is going to get way out of control. It can replenish its army quicker than Protoss can. And although it's throwing away a fair bit of Zerglings here and there... oh, we've got the High Templar. They were here scouting all the time. And this one is going to... what the bloody hell is it doing? You can't lose Templar. Here comes another one. Oh, hello. Have some free Templar. Storm to defend yourself, man. Oh, God. That's 3 Templars lost. And meanwhile, the Protoss army has been engaged. I totally missed that. And now it is 20 versus 26 army supply. The Zerglings are all over this, and the goons are microing for their lives, and seems to have things under control again-ish. But there come the Zerglings again, and the Zerglings are so very powerful. They can look at them. Let me take that down to normal speed so you can appreciate the micro going into these Zerglings. And we haven't got the +1 for Protoss yet. So now we've got a High Templar. Please cast a Storm. Please. Oh, please, could we have a Storm? I know it's done. But if there is some kind of weird scouting mechanic for High Templar, which I don't know anything about. God, what the bloody hell am I watching? That's really unfortunate. And these Zerglings, of course, and the goons just let it go. Oh, that's really the worst time of having a combat micro brain fart. And Zerglings are chasing units in independent groups. 4th base being started for Zerg. And another High Templar is going to be lost for no good reason at all. And this micro by McRae is really baffling me, because it used to be much better. We've got quite a congregation of overlords overseeing the battles. And although McRae has started a 3rd, and if it isn't found, I think it can hold on. But it really needs to get some purchase out of this High Templar thing, and especially since we've got Mutas, because Cherry Pie at this point is all about mobility, and these goons in the middle won't win versus the Zerglings. And look at this number of hatcheries. It's all based on cheap units, on map control, and if there is not going to be a storm anytime soon, it's the T key which you need, bloody Templars. This one's got full energy, storm's done, and they flat out refuse to storm, or for Christ's sake morph into an Archon. Please! Start! Please! Oh well, just let these Zerglings overrun your natural, for crying out loud. 4th up, 5th being started, lots of units coming in, Dark Templars pissing about, not using their energy and getting killed on some kind of stupid suicide mission. And that is really, I'd really like to have... come on, you can't be serious. This would have been such a good game if these Templar, they could kill. It's only 20 army supply in Zerglings, for Christ's sake. Just storm this and it's gone. My god. Oh, and in the meanwhile, please track the Zerglings to your hidden base. And of course there is a nice Protoss train, but the main's getting... Oh, the main is out already. There is a Muta over there. There is a Templar doing fuck all over there. And now the Zerglings with a tiny army supply are overrunning goons, because the Templars are bloody stupid. This Muta is taking down as much probes. Oh god. And this base is being sort of shut down by 2 Zerglings, which are not being attacked by a superior force of probes. And at this point I can only conclude that McRae has dropped the ball. Some internal wiring fault has caused it to completely black out, and this Muta has been going at it forever. We've got 2 Mutas over here, we've got probes over there, the 3rd has been turned into a piece of rubble. All the base is being populated, 71 workers. We've got all kinds of tech coming up up on the Zerg end of things. And this was the natural, and now this entire 50 army supply in Zerglings and the Orb Muta in there is overrunning the base, and we see all kinds of upgrades. And for crying out loud, cast that bloody storm! It can't be that hard, even I can do it. I can get overrun by Cherry Pie, and I can cast a storm. That couldn't be too hard. Okay, so before I blow a fuse, I suggest we move up into the next game. McRae... Oh god, no. Shut up. I can't really bear to watch this. And I'm going to speed up the initial stages of this game, because in the round of 8 we've got one more game. It's Killerbot versus Ximp. And for the love of God, McRae, this time please be able to cast a storm if it gets that far. Cherry Pie going for a quick natural, followed by another hatchery and of course a spawning pool. McRae going for a 2 gate with a interesting placed pylon. And there we go. The Zealots are in there already, but they are not fighting as a team. And if you are not fighting as a team, you will die. But still, they're doing a pretty good job versus these Zerglings. I don't know why they're running now, but they must have a reason. Next Zealot up is quite far away, and it's 2 goons which are getting stuck on the Overlord, thus abandoning this one Zealot over here, which might still make its way back home. And goon range is coming up. So that's not really well evaluated form of aggression. Scout, yep, now the goons are there, but there are 2 Sunkens already, and they're quite nicely placed, so I have to commend Cherry Pie for having nice building placement. And I'd also like to commend it for building a lot of workers, because many Zergs forget that and they just build a couple of defensive buildings and then go off into army production. Oh, and these two Zerglings are going to get caught. That's very unfortunate. That is not taking a cul-de-sac cul-de-sac expansion into account. But with 3 Sunkens and 1/2 army supply, I think you are pretty safe. And it can only be hoped that McRave... Oh, surely you could bust that. And 4th Sunken, you could do this. Yep, there we go. McRave going for the throat. And this time a little bit more aggression on the part of McRave. All the defensive structures are gone and there is no army at all. So Cherry Pie, what are you going to do? A little bit too much. And last game you saw it had this defensive line of Sunkens with a complement of 20 Zerglings. And now the Zerglings were lacking. And the Zerglings now are dead. And that's unfortunate, because now you're going to up for it. Cherry Pie trying to build Zerglings as fast as it can, but you've got a 44 army supply, a Protoss Gateway army in your main base, attacking your drones, and that is not looking good. So, with a well-timed piece of early aggression, McRave equalizes and makes the game 2-1. We'll have to let it play out, because still the chance, as we saw in the previous video, that bot might bug out. It's 1 game each in this best of 5, and now we'll see a game of McRave versus Cherry Pie again. Will Cherry Pie learn? That's the question. Still the same build order. Quick expansion, then a pool. No, that was a little bit too quick. And now a couple of Zerglings to fend off the early aggression with a 1-2... What are these things doing? And sometimes I just really want to have a look at the code like Neo does in the Matrix to think what... Like the Templars in Game Before Last, which were totally bugging out like nothing I've ever seen before by McRave. And now we've got 3 Sunkens, and please make a couple of Lings more before you go and build more hatches. Because I think that based on the last game, McRave will evaluate the early pressure as a great success. And thus try to build another fighting force. And these 2 Lings at the bottom of the ramp, I don't know what they are doing. But I like that Cherry Pie is now at least building a handful of Lings to supplement the Sunkens. And even if they don't constitute much fighting power in themselves, not much hit points, it complicates matters for Protoss. The combat sim will have to work harder, and it's infinitely harder to kill 3 Sunkens with a complement of Zerglings, which is now blocking the ramp for reasons. Oh, and as soon as a drone comes by, it's they'll evacuate. And drone-wise, both players exactly equal. And I think McRave has got this well under control if it would start a natural relatively soon, because this Zerg army is not going to wade through that Protoss army anytime soon, and by the time it will, it would be wise to have a natural, and that's kind of that kind of reflection is what is needed, because Cherry Pie is relentless. It will always try to balance workers, fighting units, defenses, versus anything the enemy's got so perfectly. And as a Protoss, this is the cue that you need a natural expansion and not lose a Zealot every once in a while to try and bust this. It's still all there, and if you kept your contain in this area, you would know that the ground army couldn't possibly have been evacuated. No airdrop capacity for Zerg yet. And you'd also know that your main is getting low, so please build a natural, please, or some kind of tech. And you can see that although Zerg has got half the army supply, it's sitting quite comfortably, and now throwing away a drone or 2, that's silly. But even a Facebook bot like Cherry Pie, you can't prevent of doing anything silly once in a while. And there we go. It's a bit of a standoff, some blows being, yeah, Protoss sort of going for it, but then again not really. And you can see this army difference being equalized. The Sunkens doing so much work, and the Protoss army isn't really all there. It's half of it is fighting, the other half isn't. And what was earlier about 70 versus 35 is now 50 versus 35. So a Cherry Pie coming out 20 army supply ahead, and that's about the difference which you might expect from having another source of income. And McGrave should be careful not to lose too many goons, because the goons are the only thing which are keeping the Hydras in check. As soon as... oh, we've got a Templar. And we've got a storm! Oh dear, what have we here? A well-cast storm. And Cherry Pie now has got a bit of a problem, because the Protoss Natural is nearly finishing. And perhaps we'll have another Templar. We have another Templar. And perhaps we might have another storm. Oh, and it's quite... oh, it's stacked, but still, these Hydras, and you've got... just sit back, wait for energy, storm, be zen, because once you let this bag of Hydras out of the bag, it will be a hard lot, and you can't really afford to one base. Goons and Templar, arrgh! To the... oh god, look at how many Hydras there are, and only 3 goons to stop them. Oh god, this is so hard to watch. We've got another Templar coming up, so perhaps with 3 Templars, which this game are actually capable of casting Storm. I've seen it, I've witnessed it, I've even recorded it for all posterity to see. Main is getting preciously low, but the natural is sort of up, and if the gas gets up as well, I think that with the high saturation, Zerg might be starved in its base. The question is, will Protoss lose all its goons, or go into bug mode and not cast any storms anymore? Could do with a Reaver to deal with these Sunkens and all. And Cherry Pie is trying to get a couple of drones out. And the goons! Oh no! Only 2 more goons! The last 2 more goons! Where are the bloody Templar? Oh, Templar! Oh well, that one missed. 2 more, 3 more. We've got 2, 3, 4 storms at least. And we've only got 1 more, 2 to 3, 1 goons reinforcement. And McGrave is really... because the Zealots cannot possibly hold the Hydras. And the goons can't break the Sunkens. This is getting really tense, but the Templar cloud is getting bigger and bigger. And the storms are growing, and this is like interest on your energy. If only they would be a little bit closer and could just cast the occasional storm every time a Hydra wave moved beyond the protective range of these Sunkens. That would be especially great. And here 2 Templar are coming in. The Zealots are making... oh, and that's a pretty good storm. But it's not really far enough. You'd like to storm this bit. Yeah, and of course you can kill a drone, but that doesn't really do. And another Templar is there. And the Hydra just can't stand the pummeling of these storms and the goons. And another Templar is coming, and another one. So if McGrave can keep its goon count up, it will be in a sterling position to take this game. And it would really like... yeah, you need no... oh god, all the storms are fluffing and on workers. And we've got a bunch of empty Templar. And with the Sunkens, Zerg can still hold its own, but the main is getting low. Protoss is out on the main, so it's again a 1 versus 2 base situation. But now we've got these Templar accumulating energy, being able to cast storms. A Sunken is down, but the problem is with these Templar, you are... oh, that's quite a nice storm. You are fighting energy with minerals at this point. And are there more Templar coming? Yes, 1 more's coming. So I think with every extra Templar, Protoss army is getting more and more dangerous, especially as Zerg hasn't got the the intelligence to make some kind of a muter pack, because if you had a muter group harassing this lot over here, or perhaps sneak a drone out through airlift, that would be great as well. Protoss, when are you going to build a 3rd base? Another Templar coming up, and another one over here. The Templar cloud is getting out of control, and the goon... oh well, the goons are getting into shape as well. Let's look at the upgrades. We've got a bit of range. We've got no weapons or armor or shield upgrades. No armor and weapons for the Zerg either. This is going to be the nail in the coffin for Zerg. And as soon as Protoss is starting a 3rd base, it will be over. Until that point, Zerg can hope to hold on. But you can see these... oh, and now the storms! Oh god, it's a massacre. And an Archon as well. I don't really agree with that, but by now we've got so many storms, and they could be cast. or not, or will Protoss keel over from here? For the love of God, please! How can you have 10, or at least, oh, that's more like it. That's nice and juicy. All the storms and now all the zealots can get into the action. Another storm. Yes, that's how you play Protoss. Good morning, sir. And the Zerg Hydras are just melting before all the storms. And now the zealots and the Archon are right in among the Hydras. All the Sunkens are down. And McRave is bringing it back. McRave is bringing it right back. And then it will be 2-1 in this best of 5. The main is no longer mining. It's a handful of Hydras left and taking... Oh, that's not another base. McRave is really... could really have snuck in another base, and Zerg could really have made more of this bank it's got. But right now, this game appears to be over. We've got a nice fleet of Templar with 2 goons for protection in the rear. And the main Zerg army is entering the main base, and even if it isn't really efficient in doing so and losing quite a bit of zealots to the Hydras, for Zerg it's all a rearguard action. And even though Protoss is not making any more bases, this Templar train is what brought the victory. It tore down the Hydra pack so efficiently, and Cherry Pie couldn't find an answer. McRave is going to be 2-1 up if it doesn't crash. And as this is the last extractor, I don't think it will. And that is the GG. McRave 2-1 up over Cherry Pie. Cherry Pie, the hope of Facebook. With Gabriel Seneyev, and TSC Moo, and Dan Gann, the author of Purple Wave. It is a powerhouse, but perhaps they didn't have quite enough time to prepare very well. And of course, this game is so infinitely more complex than chess and Go. It's really no wonder that even the big tech giants struggle to get a good bot up and running. That said, Cherry Pie making it into the round of 8 in its second major tournament is quite a feat of its own, because that is not an easy thing to do, I can tell you. So we'll see the same build again, and this time with a really large map, so perhaps that might work in Cherry Pie's favor. We've got the in-base third, we've got the Zerglings, and we've got the quick expansion for McRave. Half the shields of this Nexus is gone because I don't know, and all the Lings are coming in as well. So I have no idea what these 4 zealots are doing, but they seem to be freaking out, and that is really uncommon to see that McRave is in such a state of error. And if you are in such a state of error, you are going to suffer. And Cherry Pie taking its time, just taking map control, and these zealots are really something. McRave can be a cold-hearted piece of killing machinery. At other times it can be as retarded with the best of them. We saw in the first game with the High Templar, and this time the zealots leave it to these 2 goons to clear out all the Zerglings. And meanwhile, Cherry Pie has got 3 Sunkens up, 2 bases mining, and Zergling speed started. So now Protoss is coming to knock at the door, but I think that having learned from its previous experience and having gained a little bit of time by messing about in a Protoss base while Protoss was being silly, that Cherry Pie has got quite a nice, quite small army, but it's got 4 Sunkens, so it might be good. And Cherry Pie's got a lot of money, and I'd really like to see it spend it on something. And oh, this could create no, it's not blocked, is it? You could go like some kind of drunken knight in a chess kind of way. What Cherry Pie might do is sneak a drone out, so it could take a hidden third somewhere. And McRave now has got things well under control with the nice contain. Cherry Pie very defensive, going for the lair, going for another hatchery, and I think that if it had snuck out a drone or 2, it could take 2 bases. And with a couple of Zerglings to help and defend at the ramp, because although we've got a scouting probe, I don't think it's as clever yet as to see, well, if there are 2 Zerglings protecting a ramp to an empty main, there might be a base there, and they'll just give up or just keel over. For the time being, Cherry Pie, good, building a little bit of army. Losing a little bit of army, but not too much. And McGrave losing quite a bit of hit points on these zealots. And I don't know if these pylons are being accurately placed, but we'll soon find out. But for the time being, we've got the same situation again. And let's keep an eye on this. Oh yeah, there we go. That's the spells upgrade thing. This is the upgrade screen, leg speed, range versus speed +1. And the Zerglings are fighting for all they are worth. Wow, look at the savage beasts, and now they're all damaged, they're coming back. And Protoss is getting damaged as well, and with the large production capacity, although, well, no, Zerg can't really make it work. And Protoss should really look into getting +1. If you see a humongous number of Zerglings and you've got a lot of Zealots, please build +1 weapons. And look at these Zerglings go. Let's take down to normal speed. This Templar has got Storm and again is refusing to cast it. For the life of me, throw it away. Yes, march 2 more into the jaws of death. And although McGrave is 2-1 up, if you are going to play like this, you might as well just type GG at the first 4 workers. 28 army supply. Oh, and here goes another Templar. Please, let's have it. It is really beyond me, and of course these goons without Zealot support don't stand a chance. In base 3rd, even... Oh well, that's pretty sweet for Cherry Pie. Had a bit of problems getting a 3rd last game. But what has gotten into the Templar control of McGrave? And this is the natural, but it's not... Please, 1 Storm, you can do it. Please. I should beg harder, I think. But now Cherry Pie's got another 5 mineral patches income and has snuck out another worker. So McGrave, yeah, well, if you get to a position where your High Templar are starting to make sense again, or get +1, before, of course, the... Oh, God. This is not good. There was only one word for it. It's not good. Protoss army control is broken. These High Templar, on which a large portion of your tactics are based, are broken, and if you are playing a Zerg as good as Cherry Pie, it's not going to help you at all. 3rd base up, 4th base is starting, and well, what can you say more? We've got a 10 supply difference between both armies, but as Zerg is having a defender's advantage, and these goons are rather juicy if they are fighting Zealots alone. Oh, now the High Templar are sort of not really suiciding anymore, so perhaps we'll even get to see them cast Storm. Make me crazy. And Zerg is going off the leash. It's 24 versus 18 army supply in the rout. Protoss army movement is highly suspect, and in a rearguard action, a couple of Storms to cover your retreat might come in damn handy. Damn Templars, cast your bloody Storms. And you better do it in the next 30 seconds or you are going to be killed. There goes the natural. 4th is up for Zerg. And on the back of malfunctioning High Templar, Cherry Pie is going to make it into the 5th match. Wow. Pretty sweet. Tearing down the natural in style. We've got a High Templar here. We've got, well, 2 there. A nice ramp full of Zerg over here. 2 Storms might settle them all. But for reasons better known to God knows who, these High Templar are not having a good day. Maybe they're on strike. They say, well, we are not getting enough recognition for what we do, and it isn't about the money. But yeah, if we are not getting involved with this, you see what's going to happen. And next time, better make us. Give us another nice... Give us invisibility or something. Perhaps they're trying to hold out for more... Oh, here's one as well. They are holding out for more abilities or more upgrades, or... Yeah, well, we haven't got shields and only want no armor upgrades, so we don't really feel like fighting today. And all these Zerglings and Hydras... only call us if there's something interesting to storm, like more mutas, and only two. No, we won't do it for 2. We need a nice stacked flock of them. Perhaps some guardians, the odd defiler, and you just don't bother before that, will you? It's be so good. And let's go into the 5th game, and that will decide everything. So in 2 games we saw a pretty close game where Templar decided to roll over mentally, and in the other 2 games we saw a very close game in which the High Templars decided to actually do something. So let's hope for, if you are rooting for McRave, let's hope that the High Templar are going to be able to cast a Storm this game. If on the other hand you are rooting for Zerg, let's hope that the Dark Templar have their 50% chance of being complete morons. And there goes. Okay, well this is looking good because the Zealots are now second thoughts about a drone taking away half the shields of the main nexus. And they even killed the scouting drone, so that's good. And I really think that this army micro of McRave in instances is really not to put a too fine a point on it, is bloody retarded. Look at this. It's just so... One zealot's being torn to bits, and they go off after a scouting drone. A probe is getting killed, another zealot's getting killed, and they just keep messing about. Pylon being torn to shreds. Gateway, please have a gateway. Oh, Mr. Dragoon, please help us. Oh yeah, well finally, if you get within 2 centimeters of me, I'll... Oh, and the goon is doing pretty well with the micro, now with 2 goons. But the damage is done. Gateway got torn down, Pylon got torn down, a couple of workers killed, a couple of zealots wasted for nothing. And now with a handful of zealots and goons, the Zergling tide can be stemmed. McRave though has got this 3 sunken defense up with quite a bit of Zergling, so should be okay. And although in the last year we've seen a huge increase in the responsiveness of these bots, they no longer have one fixed build order. They can evaluate over the last game, within game evaluation or within series evaluation. That's not really happening yet, and yeah, that's stupid. If you see what your enemy weaknesses are, if you somehow have a mechanism of evaluating that, if it is a lack of detectors, or perhaps it's a lack of anti-air, or if it's only defending the front and you can always find a nice path around, that kind of stuff, a human player would do that instantly, and that I think is an area in which Brute by Eye can still make huge gains. And this kind of stuff. Well, if the enemy has got army supply 10 and I've got army supply 10, if I upgrade that to 20, it's safe to assume that the enemy is going to do the same thing, but that kind of prediction is not yet done. So every time you'll have to send out units to make sure what the army size look like, and losing drones like this is, yeah, mediocre at best. That's... But we seem to have devolved into the same kind, or evolved in the same kind of match we had. We've got nice SimCity. The danger is that this is going to be torn down. Upgrade-wise, Zerg is forging ahead with speed +1 and the standard range and zealot leg speed for Protoss. And I like this setup, but versus the top players, if there are any kind of spellcasters, if they be High Templar or perhaps Reavers, this is a very dangerous thing to do, because the Reavers will outrange the Sunkens, and Zerglings versus Reavers with any kind of zealot protection, it's just ugly. Now we're having the Templar, and the storm's nearly done. The Zerglings are trying to bust their way out. The goons are... oh, that's so bad. The Protoss army movement is just so lackluster, because you've got 50 versus 30 army supply. Now we've got the High Templar, and we will see If they are going to... No, they are not. They are not. The Templars are suiciding again. 1 dies. 2 die. Oh, and the 3rd is going in for a beating as well. The 4th dies as well. Oh, God. And now the Protoss army is on the retreat with only 5 more supply. And the bloody High Templars are doing it again. They are not casting a single storm. They are just going to stand there, watch the Lynx tear them to pieces. There goes the 5th. And here comes the 6th Dark Templar, which will be for the same lot. And that is 6 High Templars with a good 12 storms between them. And the only thing is there is about 20 supply of Zerglings. You can't be serious, please. And the moment it's out of the box, Cherry Pie is taking 2 new expansions. One's already almost up. Lots of hatcheries in the main. And this is getting really... Well, McGrave will have to earn its keep in the losers round again, but oh god, this is so hard to watch in 3 games, and I can't put my finger on it why in 2 games the High Templar did function, were able to cast Storm, because versus Zergling only, the only thing you've got to do is press T and click somewhere around here and everything dies, and that's... Of course, there is storm dodging with Cherry Pie. The Facebook bot was splashing 10k APM around. But the principle is, if you've got the enemy contained, if you've got 5 High Templars, you've got to be able to make something out of that, surely. Even I could do that. Okay, well, it's very... Oh, God, what have I done? And it's recording. I get so mixed up that I'm splashing my tabs around and I get into all kinds of states. Not to take anything away from Cherry Pie, but Cherry Pie is a monster. It is so well balanced in drone production, army production, defensive structures. And with the Zerglings it's got, which it's taken good care of upgrade-wise, it can do so magnificently well. Now exploding to 50 workers, lots and lots and lots of hatcheries. Look at how many larvae there are. In the unit screen we are having... Oh, here we have the summary. We've got 22 larvae, and that's quite enough to be going on with. We've got 1 Archon. Okay, 1 Archon, but it only ran. And I think McGrave is going to have to find a path in through the loser round and hope it won't encounter Cherry Pie in the finals, because it is... If it's going to rely on High Templars to beat Cherry Pie, it will be in a quite a fix. Cherry Pie making its way out of the quarterfinals to the semis. Congratulations for a first time showing in this beautiful tournament. That's quite good. So now we are left with only 1 game, and that is Marion Divek. Shut up. Marion Diveka and Thomas Weider, and it's also Ximp, the carrier bot, versus Killerbot. And why you call a bot Killerbot? Because it can kill pretty well. And what we will see is Thomas Weider going for a cannonball off, and I don't think this shape is really the best it could have hoped for. And Killerbot, oh, not going too fast, is going for a handful of Zerglings, is going to bust with just the Zerglings. It's got 3 bases up, 2 bases up and the 3rd finishing. And versus 3 cannons, soon to be 4, and the running distance. I think that Killerbot for the moment can't get in. And Ximp is going to sit back behind its wall, tech up 2 carriers and try to kill the enemy thusly. Now in the main base we've still got a lot of drones like Cherry Pie. Those are 2 Sunkens. Why? Oh, well, 2 creep. I don't know. At times it looks like intelligence, and at times it looks like utter and complete madness. That can only be the one word to describe what's happening. Like the High Templar we saw last game, refusing to cast the bloody storm on only a handful of Zerglings. It's madness. Now you take a 3rd base, you'll build your lair there and plop down 3 Sunkens, even though the enemy is nowhere in sight, just sitting back behind the cannons. And Killerbot will have to contend with carriers soon, because you can see that Ximp is going for a lot, and I do mean a lot of Stargates. That must be 4 Stargates before even a single carrier has been started, and now the Hydras are coming. So with the Hydras coming and more defensive structures, I think that either Killerbot is setting up a bust of this glorious turret field. Oh, well, this is a nice batch of... This is well placed, I think. This bit is a bit lacking. You could do with another pylon and a couple of more cannons. But for the time being, the number of Hydras is growing, and all the... Oh, not all of them. 3 of the 4 Stargates are flashing, and it's going to be carriers. Whoa, that's a fat round of drones! And now we've got 4 carriers building, so all the 4 Stargates are flashing. 4th base being taken with another hatchery just for good measure. And the Hydra count is growing. And that will be the battle of choice, I think, between carriers and Hydras. We've got 2 carriers, 16 Hydras, and only 1 interceptor. Of course, there will be more soon. But Zerg is going to explode on the map. We've got 27, 28 Hydras. And I think the rest of this game will be dedicated to press Z and S and then Z for all the larvae you select, and then build, not Zergling, SH, build a Hydra. Let's look at the upgrades of the Hydras. We've got speed, we've got range, +1. We haven't got the armor upgrade, and now they're going after the first cannon, and the first 2 cannons die. The carriers are coming off the line. But the Hydras just hold their ground and try to kill as many interceptors as they can. Would be interesting to see how many they've got. We've got 16 now. It's no longer growing, although there are 6 carriers, and that's something you've got to keep in mind. Not all the carriers are fighting. We've got 4 over here, and together with the carriers at home, they've got 20 interceptors, and you can see how quickly these interceptors evaporate. And meanwhile, the Hydra count is rising. It's 52 versus 7. And this is really the important metric of this game. The number of Hydras compared to the number of interceptors. And the Hydras, as long as they don't fight in range of these cannons, they will be in a pristine position to do a lot of good for the Zerg part of things. And now we even got a Spire. I don't know what Killerbot's going to do with that. And now the Hydras are taking out on the cannons and the carriers simultaneously. Problem is that most of... Oh, we've got a group of 4 carriers full with interceptors having escaped, and they will find this base now, so any Hydra which will pop out here is going to die, and this base is going to fall as well. But the cannons, this cannon emplacement is still in place, and these 4 carriers can do quite a bit of diverting as well. The Hydras are tearing into this position here, which will allow this group of carriers to rebuild the interceptors, and you can see where earlier it was about 20 interceptors versus 50 Hydras. It's now 45-ish, 40-ish Hydras versus 64 interceptors. More carriers are being built, just being sent over pell-mell into... Oh, that's not a good position to take a 3rd base. But this base is being shut down, although the Hydra core has arrived, and it's taking a toll on the interceptors. That said, the hatchery, or the lair which it was, is down. And this group of carriers is taking quite a beating. But this group of carriers over here is doing a lot of damage to the infrastructure, and the Hydra numbers are severely depleted. Battle is going on in the middle of the map. Battle is going on in the main base from 2 sides, and this base is going to be torn down as well. Long distance mining isn't going to do you a lot of good if the nearest hatchery is over here. And now the carriers are going after... What are they going after? I hope it's not going to be the Hydra Den for Zerg's sake. But there are first Hydras to be killed. 3rd base for Protoss is up. Once these 2 pylons get down, there will be cannons as well. The main base is out, natural still mining, getting low though. But you can see it's now 76 interceptors versus 26 Hydras. And although this is a nice group of Hydras, it can sort of hold its own. The problem is that this base is down, it's gone, and the Hydra Den has only got 1 sliver of HP left and will be soon shot to pieces, and then there will be no Hydras left at all. and these carriers have things well under control with 74 versus 27 Hydras, and as long as you are fighting overhead the base of your enemy and have got 2 bases up of your own, you're in a good position. Supply wise, 130 versus about less than 80. The Hydra Den just got taken apart, and that is not good. We'll have to rebuild, but that's going to take forever. Meanwhile, the Hydra numbers are going to suffer. They are dropping below 20, and we'll soon have a situation where the carriers outnumber the Hydras, and as a Zerg, that is not a good perspective to have. It's only 6, 7, 5 Hydras left. Okay, now the Hydra Den is done again. A lot of them get called again, morphed, it's called. 4th base being taken by Protoss, and the main base is being taken to pieces. There is no main hatchery anymore, which will mean that there is only going to be a possibility of, we've got a lot of hatcheries here, but the income of Zerg is at this point quite non-existent. And the main base is being torn to pieces. Torn to pieces it is. And I'll speed it up just a notch, because although it's very beautiful to see carriers at work, it's not the most interesting thing for long stretches of time. And Xim appears to be, it's looking forward to taking the first game. And there are carriers over the 3rd base already. There you go, the Spire's going down, the Hydra Den is down again. There was one Hydra, and we've got almost 100, we've got 100 interceptors, so this game is over. The game is over. Killabot missed its timing, couldn't get the critical Hydra Masters to work, got outcliffed, outflanked, and Xim taking the first game in style. Oh dear, I wish it wouldn't do that. So the second game, and if there is one thing that we can be sure of, is that Xim will be doing exactly the same thing. Forge first, a couple of cannons, take a quick expansion, and Killabot is not going for the Zergling bust, look like. It is going for a 3 base, and then some extra hatcheries, going for a lot of Hydras, and then it sort of has to hope that it will pick the right fights versus the carriers. And the carriers are coming out again, and the Hydra numbers are still relatively low, and also they are running. And if you are running and not fighting, it's going to be ugly pretty soon. So the carriers appear to be having a good time already, taking down a couple of free Hydras, more free Hydras, and the next batch of carriers is buzzing in the starports already. We've got 4 bases of Zerg, that's good. But the Zerg Hydra core is just not coming off the ground. It's 36. And the Hydras are being cut to pieces one at a time. 3rd base started for Protoss. And, well, will Zerg have enough this time? It looks like enough. Hydras have arrived in the main base to be able to deal with the interceptors. And more Hydras are streaming in. Some Zerglings are blocking the ramp with their silly movements. And the main base has been held. That is sort of good. Because even though this carrier thing is cliffing the Hydras, large clump of Hydras are not defeatable by carriers. And the second group of carriers is not yet done. So the Hydra count is now 70. Versus only 5 carriers, and if they don't suicide into the cannons, taking down their 3rd base. Killabot looking good to equalize, and you see Killabot now exploding with the macro. 72 workers, 92 Hydras. Good morning to you, sir. That is almost 100 Hydras, and now tearing into the cannon wall. Of course, the carriers on the high ground are trying to do their best, but between them they've only got 15 interceptors, and that's not quite a lot. Killabot, meanwhile, taking more bases all over the map, still at 72 workers, but the Hydra core, which is now exceeding 100 in number, is tearing the Protoss army to shreds. And there we go, having some issues making their way up the ramp. The main base is depopulated, 129 Hydras, Zerg is maxed. Good morning. Next game, Xim types out, it is 1-0. And there we go again. And I fear that these bots haven't got a flexible build order selection. So it's going to be carriers with the, yeah, there we go. Forge first into a couple of cannons, quick expansion. Zerg into a quick third with, I don't know why these sun guns are here. With the contain, again with the scouting drone. And here come the Hydras. And now the carriers are coming and the Hydras are taking on the cannons a little bit too early to my taste. Oh, and this carries suicides for stupid reasons. And now both players somehow dropping the ball a little bit. But I think that the Hydras will have enough staying power, especially with the fourth base being up. If these carriers keep suiciding like this, I think it's treating this area here as a safe space, but of course it isn't. And now Zerg is starting its 5th base, while Protoss can only, yeah, suicide carriers. That's not good. And another one. Oh dear, that's a sad sight to see. Now the cannonball's being torn down, and Killabot will be taking it up to 2-1 versus Ximp. And there we go. Last bit of carrierage with only 3-4 interceptors. Natural being torn to pieces. Main base still there. There is a small ground army which is now coming in to fight. Killing 1, 2, 3 Hydras, but then it's gone. And now Killabot's got the map, and if you look at the minimap, the Hydras are streaming in from every angle. They've got upgrades and all, so that is good for Zerg. For Protoss it's not so good, because being 2-1 down to killer, and well, you've got a bit of a 25% chance to take a game. Alright, so let's see in potentially the last game of the round of 8 if the carriers will suicide a little bit less this time and get a good angle on the Hydras. Overlord arriving, scouting out Protoss base. Again we see the cannon wall, which will be immaculately placed on this beautiful map called Jade. Oh dear, here we go again. 3rd base with the extra hatchery is here. Okay, well there you go, and here come the Hydras, and the Hydras are having a little bit more difficulty with well-placed cannons. The thing what should not be happening is that these carriers get involved with the combat too directly. Keeping the Hydras on edge like this is good, so they'll weave in and out of the cannon range. They'll lose some every once in a while, so you can trade interceptors for Hydras and cannons. And now you should be thinking about joining the battle or try to take off reinforcements. But really the only point at which carriers get good if they can fight isolated Hydras. Oh, and this is a classical mistake. They try to reach the carriers, but they have to pass the cannon field. And look at all these cannons over here. Ximp is not really messing around. Oh, and getting a few free cannon kills, a few paid cannon kills, but at this point Zerg is all over this and being already 2-0 up. Killabot is going into this head first, but now the carriers are out, and let's see how many Hydras. We've only got 16 Hydras, so perhaps this is the turning point where one group of carriers will hit the Killabot army and the other group will hit another base. So here they are in a position where they can kill isolated or small groups of Hydras which won't fight. And this base looks to be in grave danger. This base is overrun and the Hydra count is only 24, so either and Killabot keeps streaming in Hydras one at a time. So what it needs to do is post a large Hydra army here and one here preferably, so it can snipe 4 carriers. And what it's doing now, it's trying to fight interceptors with isolated Hydras, and that is not going to go well at all. Meanwhile, we've got 9 carriers versus 32 Hydras, and Ximp looks about, if it can hold its stuff together, perhaps take a 3rd base. Here we go, but there is a scouting Zergling is trying to nip that in the butt. That's good. But this base is will soon be going down. A couple of Hydras in isolated positions are going to get shot to pieces. And you can see this Hydra count not really going higher than 30. This base has been shot, and this base will be shot as well. One last volley on that hatchery and it will be okay. And you can see these Hydras are sort of scrambly. They can touch a couple of the interceptors at the edges, but other than that they can't really do too much. And then as a Zerg you'll be down to 2 bases. Well, I won't be counting this one because it's not mining. The drones are returning to the main hatchery cluster, and a couple of shots at this hatchery might really do wonders. This is quite a nice Hydra army though, and although the battle in this part of the world is being lost, here perhaps you have a chance to kill 1 or 2 carriers and then mop up the last one. I think that with just a bit of luck the Hydras might have things under control over here. More are coming in, and it looks like the carriers are here going to suffer a small setback. Oh dear, we've got 8 carriers about to hit the main and there is nothing there. So although Zerg has stabilized over here, is killing this expeditionary force of carriers, it's about to lose the main. The first 4 carriers hit, immediately take down the Hydra den, and of course, although this base stabilized, the Hydra core is fixed on taking down this carrier, which is sitting right out of range, and building a single... Oh, it's going to fall to a single Hydra, surely not. The naturals overrun, the main is in tatters, the hatcheries are being engaged, and without hatcheries you haven't got any income whatsoever. This hatchery might fall as well before the Hydra core arrives, and even if the Hydra core arrives at this point, it's double the supply for Sim the carrier bot, and that will put a whole different complexion on things. Sim will have equalized the game 2-2 in this best of 5, and although this carrier group here is stalled, these 2 carriers are stalled, they can't really get out, nothing's coming in for Zerg, and we'll soon have more carriers coming in from the rear, and they might take a while, killing the overlords, killing the sunken, killing the extractor perhaps, killing a drone or 2. In the end, this paltry Hydra army, only 18, 17, it's like a countdown rhyme. There is 1 drone working, but it's really a harsh working environment, and health and safety should do something about that. Oh, too late. Sim about to equalize 2-2. That's pretty Gosu, I would say. And that was... Well, it's not really the game yet, because Zerg has clawed itself back into the game. The position is rescued here, has allowed it to rebuild the Hydra den, trying to rebuild a hatchery, but there is just not enough there. The carrier core is all over it, and the carrier train is going to do a lot of damage, and there is even going to be an arbiter. I don't know where it is yet. Where is the carrier, the arbiter? Is it here already? Or where is it? Oh, it's here. I don't know what it's doing. It's playing hide and seek with an interceptor, which is doing God knows what. And a massive force of carriers and arbiters and interceptors has been sent to kill this overlord, because it's a magical overlord with nuclear bombs and all of its tentacles, and now it's dead. Sorry. Sim going to take this, well, not in convincing fashion, but it's going to take it. It's very, very resilient, and even if you are going to play pure Hydra, you need to be able to take a couple of good fights, otherwise you are going to suffer. And that was the last base, and you can see from all angles the carriers are converging now with the carriers, and this is a sad sight to see for any Zerg lover. Now, there we go, that is the GG, and let's hop into the 5th and deciding game between a Killerbot by Marian Diveka and Ximp by Thomas Weider. So, it's a bit of a hit and miss, either the carriers win or the Hydras win, and it's the same matchup going into its 5th installment in this tournament. And one of these players will move up to the semi-finals, the other one will be demoted to Losers Round 2, which will be broadcasting momentarily. Again, we see the cannonball, which is not as well placed as before, and it's these small details which will be a deciding factor in who is going to take this game. You saw earlier in the last game that there were cannons about here and a carrier over here, so the Hydras try to attack these carriers and pass the cannons. And we also saw that when the cannons are lined up straight, as a straight front, they can put out a lot of damage to Hydras which are not attacking all that intently or are moving in and out like you see these Zerglings do. So if there are 10 Zerglings standing here, these Zerglings try to run back and forth, but they can run back and they run forth again into range of the cannons and then they die. Now, what will we have? We'll have a lair, and the Hydra Den will surely be here. 4th base being started, so this time it's not going to be a 3-base Hydra play, it's going to be a 4-base Hydra play, or a 5-base Hydra play. Let's see if that makes any difference. And now we are seeing the first Hydras rolling up before the carriers are started, and a nice fat round of drones. I always like that. 4 carriers building. Upgrade wise, Zerg has got Overlord speed, Zergling speed, Hydra range, and +1 is starting weapons. Upgrade for the carriers is starting, and the increased interceptor capacity as well. And now Zerg has got tabs on all the bases save this one. 3rd base being started, and it has now been spotted, and nothing's been done about it. So that's unfortunate. The first 4 carriers are moving out, are going to be hit this base soon. Oh, and we've got a muter play! What have we here? It's not going to be all about Hydras, it's going to be our muters, and still there are a lot of Hydras, that must be said. And the carriers are coming in, and the Hydras are now fighting the carriers, while the muters are wrecking the Nexus, and that is good. And the Nexus, oh, the Corsairs are here, and they're doing so much damage. But then again, the Hydras are coming in, and this I have not yet seen from Killerbot. It is a mixed muter and Hydra play of a lot of bases. What a piece of beauty this is. And although the Hydras can't really engage the carriers, the muters have done their bit, and there are Corsairs, and that means less carriers, and that means that the Hydras can take down the 3rd base, and now the map is awash in yellow, and that is not good if your favorite color is teal or green. So now, let's take stock. We've got only got 1 wave of muters, which did such a lot of damage, and we've only got 2 carriers versus 70 Hydras, and all the cannons are being shot to pieces, and Killerbot has had enough, is making its way into the round of 4. Ladies and gentlemen, would you believe it? This is absolute carnage at its best. Ximp has been taken with his pants down for a ride down a long hard wall of Hydras, and it's going to be a little bit grated and torn to shreds, and I will give Killerbot the honor of doing the total destruction of the base slowly. Hydras are even now upset with the power generators. I don't know what they have done, but I'm sure they are pure evil. And the 108 Hydras, oh look at that, we've got 117 Hydras, all the power generators. That must be worth extra points for Killerbot. And the main base is awash with yellow Hydras, and that's 129, 2 Zerglings somewhere, and Killerbot makes it over Ximp into the round of 8. Congratulations! And now we'll be casting Losers Round 2. And can we... No, we can't get the overlay to show it. But Losers Round 2, I'll spare you the bracket. I'll just be doing the games in non-specific order. We'll be starting out Losers Round 2, and well, I should show you the brackets. I could do that easily. And so we saw earlier that Zer made it out of there, Bereaven made it out of there, Tia Protoss won, and Woolybot won as well. And then with Ironbot, Eric Hammer, McRave and Ximp falling into there, we have quite a stacked losers bracket as it is. So first game is Eric Hammer versus Tia Protoss, and this will be all about aggression, because Tia Protoss can do one thing well, and that is be a dominant force with gateway units and a lot of bases. And to illustrate that is starting out with a 2-gate, while Eric Hammer is going for a very quick hatchery and then a pool, which means that the first 3 zealots will have a little contention, because there are only going to be 6 Zerglings and then perhaps some drones. So the Zerglings have taken possession of this end of the bridges, and the Zealots at the other end. Quick nexus by Tier Protoss, which makes me believe that it's going to try for to get a little bit of an army together and then march over to the other end of the map. Arakama is sort of banking off that, is taking a very ballsy quick third on quite a low number of workers. So if Xim decides for an early push on 2 bases and then support that push with reinforcements, Arakama is going to be in quite a bit of trouble, and that is... Oh, well, I should have this up. Sorry, missed the overlay for most of the broadcast. And now Arakama is trying for a little bit of a push of its own, and there are goons already. So I think that Tier Protoss is in a good position to contest the bridges and hold its base. That said, though, Arakama is getting in there with the Zerglings, losing a couple of workers, and the Hydras are just too many. Taking a 4th base, has mined out these blocking minerals at the ramp. You can, oh, Tier's mined them out as well. And the Hydras are all over this. So Arakama looking to take a quick victory. That's quite a number of probes, and with some reinforcements perhaps Tier might still hold this somehow. For the time being, a couple of goons might be nice, +1 might be nice as well, and the Zealots have hold this, and it's a bit of a stalemate. But behind this stalemate, Arakama has taken another base, and Tier Protoss got 50 workers on 2 bases, that must be said, but that means that the main will mine out relatively quickly, and Zerg with the lowest saturation, only 30 workers dispersed over 3 bases, will be in a better position to sustain the long run. And where is Protoss going to take a third? Zealots fighting Hydras again. We've got the Hydra range, the speed +1, we've got the armor, we've got the leg speed, we've got the goon range. So it looks to be quite a commitment for Tier on the gateway stage of the game. And the probes have to come off the line as well, but we've got 60 probes, that's quite a lot. And the Dragoons can do quite well versus the Hydras if there aren't enough Hydras. And how many Hydras can you fit on a bridge? Not enough to beat Tier Protoss's goon army. Meanwhile, this base has been, albeit a little bit sparsely populated. Will we get any kind of interesting tech? We get Storm. I swore I saw Storm there earlier. We've got Lurker Aspect done, and will we have... We've got a robo facility, we haven't got an observatory, so there might be... oh, there is an observer already, it's cloaked, so can't see it all that easily. And for good measure, Arakama taking 2 more bases, meanwhile building a couple of lurkers, and even if they can be detected, they are quite a force to be reckoned with. But with double the army supply, Tier Protoss had enough and is moving over for some Zerg blood. And immediately going for the lurker, and if the rest of the army isn't supporting that, that's not good at all. And the Protoss Expeditionary Force has reached the 3rd, it is, for Zerg, and the Zerg army is trying to fight over here the Protoss advance. And these lurkers are in an awkward position. They've got quite a bit of armor, and they are now going to burrow. And the observer is... Where's the observer? Can't see it. Oh, they unburrow. That's unfortunate, because one base has been taken down by Tier Protoss, and the next base will be up for grabs as well. 2 more bases have been started, but the 3rd base for Protoss as well. And Protoss might just roll Zerg with this one army. And Arakama can't really get its stuff together. The lurkers are there, but they are sort of not really used efficiently. This one is burrowed in a nice position, but it will become less relevant as this base has been torn to pieces already. And now it's a 2 Zerg base versus 3 Protoss bases. This base being torn down, Tier Protoss being very methodical in nipping new bases in the bud, not really going after new expansions already. And Arakama, well, what can it do? Protoss taking a 4th base for good measure and is approaching max, while Arakama is struggling by on 23 supplies, 0 army, and is somehow keeled over, is not producing anything. And what is this? It's going to be, well, speed it up, because this base is cat food, as we say, and the Protoss army is flapping about somewhere, a little bit here, a little bit there. And Zerg is definitely keeled over. Built a spire, but can't build things anymore. Crashed-ish. And Tier Protoss is... okay. I think Arikam. I'll give it to Tier Protoss, still attacking. First game goes to Tier Protoss. And that's really... that might be an argument for having these games live in the elimination stages, because it's so hard to decide what's going on. But for all intents and purposes, Tier Protoss taking the first game. And now we see a 2-gate with an added natural expansion. 3 bases coming up for Arikama. Lots and lots of sunkens, maybe based on last game, so it can be in a better shape to protect any kind of attack. But meanwhile, it's going to cost you a lot of money in drones, mining time, and minerals for upgrades as well, if they are going to be any. And Arikama doing everything on 9 workers. That's really, really not a lot, and should really build more workers. Tier Protoss doesn't have that problem, has got 32 workers, 20 army supply, couple of goons incoming, and if you look at the upgrades, there are no upgrades yet. So for now, Arikama still doing this on an incredibly low worker count, while Tier Protoss just happily sitting back on 2 bases, 40 workers, still pumping workers from both nexus. That's really surprising. And Arikama, I can't understand what it's doing. It's not attacking, it's not macroing. The Lings are in a state, and now the Protoss army is not yet moving out. Arikama, what is it doing? It's got a fair bit of money. What's it producing? Oh, it's going for Hydras. And while the Protoss army is moving out, the Hydras might be a little bit late. Will we have Lurkers? Yes, but they'll also be pretty late. The Naturals being stamped into the ground. Only now the Lings are retiring. Retiring. They're not retiring, returning to come and help. They might do so a little bit more effectively. But by this time the main base is torn to shreds. Tier taking a 3rd base with 53 workers and just producing stuff, taking a 2-0 victory. And there we go. Oh, sorry. Losers round is best of 3, so I shouldn't have to show you this game. Next game is Ironbot versus Woolly. And Woolybot really well, surprised me by taking down Leaderbot in Losers round 1. And now in Losers round 2 it's going to do what it can do best, produce units, and quite a lot of them. So we'll have 2 gateways while Iron goes for its nice and immaculate ramp. And I can only hope that the Marines of Iron will be able to fight better than the Marines of Leaderbot. But by now there are 2 vultures out, and if I'm not mistaken we will see speed soon as well. And the zealots of Woolybot have been sidetracked by a scouting SUV, and now we will see some pristine vulture micro. One zealot is down already and the other one is going to follow suit. And if you are going to bank this heavily on zealots, it might be wise to assess whether or not you're going to fight vultures. This vulture has taken down, already taken down 3 zealots, and now with his friend is going to tear down another one. And ooh, that was a mine. I missed that. Sorry. So we've got. Oh, that wasn't a mine. Looked like one. And we have got mines. Why are we not seeing? Oh, mines are a spell. They are not an upgrade for reasons. So the vultures are all over this. Mines are at all bases. Natural floating over. Ironbot not really showing any mercy with Woolybot. And all the workers die. Oh, it's looking sad for Woolybot. We'll have to let this game play out, and we'll see Ironbot trying to distribute the damage equally between all the buildings, for reasons best known to itself. and they will then fall all together in relative short succession. And there we go. Woolybot versus Iron. Iron taking it. No, I don't want the bloody App Store. I just want you to play this replay. So let's see what Woolybot can do in the next game. Again, we see a 2-gate. Again, we see a nice wall by Iron. And this seems to be a deciding factor whether or not these Zealots are going to be led on a goose chase by a Marine or an SCV. And this time, it looks like these Zealots... Oh no, it's diverging. It's not showing them the path to the main base. And... that's really something. Ironbot this time, and this Marine has got quite good running skills. Even finding the time to take a shot at one of these Zealots, really further angering them. And we've got 2 Vultures out already, taking a look at all the bases, and one Zealot is going after the Zealots. And the Vulture is going to take down its first and the second, and this Zealot is really mindless because versus 2 Vultures, what can you do? And the Marine's still there, has taken another couple of hits, but the Vulture's there now, and I think with hasn't got speed, mines will be done first. Nice gate mechanic, more Vultures coming up, and Vulture only versus Zealot only can only end in one way if you've got micro like this. Still, for completeness sake, I will have to let the game play out. There is a very small chance that Ironbot might crash out. And there's... Oh, look at this. This Vulture gets killed. They get trapped every once in a while. But by now they're in among the workers as well. And with the mines, I can't really see this getting any better for Woolybot. Natural up and running for Ironbot worker transfer. Beautiful. 3 mines on the ramp just for good measure, and we've got 3 factories, 4th soon to be, humming away at producing Vultures. Nice path of mines towards the enemy, and boom, nice mine hit. There you go. Ooh, taking down 2 Vultures and all, and Woolybot has got nothing left. It's got 2 supply, one last Zealot, and then it's all about deconstructing the enemy base. Which sounds fancy, but just means beating the hell out of it. And mines versus buildings are always a nice idea. And there we go, this base. Woolybot taking an exit from the Losers Round 2, and Ironbot moving on to Losers Round 3. Then McRave versus Bereaver on Python. And I really... Well, of course, once you fall to the losers round, it's anyone's guess who you're going to meet. But I really wouldn't expect either of these players here. But they made some glaring errors in the previous game, so unfortunately they are here. Now, Bereaver with the early aggression can't really make it. The goons of the gateway into core of McRave are beating at this moment the Zealot only composition of Bereaver, and Bereaver has, well, induced McRave. No, McRave has induced Bereaver to build a cyber core, but in the meanwhile it can take a lot of free Zealot kills with all the goons it's got. No natural expansion or any other expansion for either player. We've got the robo facility for McRave done. I saw an observer already, which will give it high ground vision. Of course there are 3 cannons, but they are far away from the actual fighting. And now we'll see McRave advancing in army supply. It's 32 versus 24. And although there are a couple of Dragoons on the high ground now, I doubt that Bereaver will have the ease of mind to get any kind of Reaver off the ground anytime soon. We've got the observer over the army. We've got this very tight position. And a handful of goons out there. And what's this going to be? A robo facility, but the natural for McRave will be done before Bereaver's robo support bay will be done. And if you've got a Reaver on the high ground, you're in quite good shape. If you can manage to ferry a Reaver over to the enemy probe line, you're in a very good shape. But until that time, if there is a large army of goons outside, 3 observers overhead, and your army sort of stuck on the ramp. This is a snowball rolling out of control, and there is no Reaver for McRave soon, so that might be the one thing keeping McRave from taking this game too quickly. We've got the observer for Reaver as well. There is a nice advantage in workers and army for Reaver, and Reaver could also be taking a third and building some more production buildings and more production buildings, while the robo support bay for Reaver is done. And Reaver's pretty good with Reavers, so let's find out what it's going to be able to do with that. But meanwhile, it's a 2 versus 1 base situation, and these goons of McRave's, let's see, we've got the range for both players. We will be having, wow, that sight range of the observers for Reaver. And yeah, good luck getting a scarab through there. Oh, at least we'll be seeing a lot of bugged out scarabs. Oh, this one nearly made it. Hello. And the Reaver, I think, is getting some action in there. And I think this is going to be the third base by McRave. And McRave will have a Reaver of its own. Unfortunately, Reaver high ground beats Reaver low ground, so that's all nice and dandy. The problem is, though, that is going to be 3 versus 1 base. And Reaver will even be losing money on all the dudded scarabs, with which it's... Oh, that's a nice one. Yeah, that's... I think this is worth it with the Reavers. But there are Reavers of McRave's in there as well. But with all the Reavers fired, this area has been too closely built, full of buildings to be able to be a nice exit for Reavers or anything else for that matter. And now McRave is happily macroing along, just building stuff. It's 80 versus 45 army supply, and although it loses the occasional goon here and there, the only thing it should be careful of is not getting a Reaver drop in its main or something like that. But main is not that vulnerable anymore because it's almost mined out. And Reaver is trying to get the natural down, and McRave is going to stop it. This front Reaver is taking a lot of fire, is not really... Oh, and the second one as well. And then if this Reaver manages to get up a couple of good shots, it can be in a good position, but it will be taking some shots from the goons as well. And the first Reaver for Reaver is dying, and although McRave can't really make much headway, the army of Reaver is falling and the minerals are out. The probes are trying to get something done with the natural, but I don't think it's going to happen. Reaver is all over this, and this observer over the enemy base is not going to do anything about that. Third base humming happily along, naturals humming happily along, and this is the natural of Reaver. It's not in a good shape. Oh yes, you needed that assimilator, and then you needed to get yourself killed. McRave will probably lose a lot of stuff trying to make it up the ramp, but this is a done deal for Reaver because it's only got 20 army supply. It hasn't at this point even got money anymore to make many more scarabs. Oh, but the probes are mining here, and now they take down this Reaver, but the army supply of Reaver is only 4, and now all the probes are for it, and that is going to be the end of this game. So McRave taking the first game, and this shoddily building near the exit is even delaying McRave from entering the base, but it's not going to do Reaver a lot of good, because in the end this 100 army is going to take the game. And will this be the last game for Reaver, or can it stage a comeback versus McRave? McRave, a dominant force, is still, despite being in the loser bracket, is still one of the main contenders for the title of this tournament. And the zealots of Reavers do take down a number of workers, but then the goons take over, and you get this rock, paper, scissors kind of mechanic, where you have an early advantage in taking down a couple of workers, and then you'll be stuck in your base with only zealots, and you'll have to make pretty quick haste with your cyber core and getting some goons out yourself. And then you'll be in the situation where McRave can build an expansion as well. And you'll see this tug of war, which I'll keep on 8 times the speed because it's not really all that interesting before a decision is being reached. Interesting in this setup is that the natural for McRave is operating and B-Reaver is still stuck on its base. It's got the Robo support base, so might make a couple of Reavers. On the other end, we've got only the observatory, and if this is Robo support base, yes it is, it's going to be a little bit later. So I hope that this Reaver this time can't get anything done, because the exit situation is better. It can get a better firing position, and more Scarabs will make it through the main army. And if this army can make it down the ramp and keep this Reaver alive, that's a little bit of an if, but this if might be the only thing holding on a string the tournament survival of B-Reavers. And now B-Reaver should be able to make it down, but the third base for McRave has started already. And the Reavers for McRave are out and about as well. So B-Reaver is a little bit too passive. It needs to take that fight. And you can see, like in previous game, the main is getting low. And although this is a good position to be firing Scarabs from, this is a losing fight. And I can, on this beautiful OpenBW high definition brute war setup, I can keep both the minerals and the armies in one view. You can see B-Reaver still got 61 army supply. It's only 1.5 down. Oh, and the Reavers of McRave do suffer a bit, but so do the Reavers of B-Reaver. And B-Reaver gets its ramp broken. This Reaver is fighting some rearguard action, but I don't think it's got any Scarabs left. It's going to be chased down by 2 goons, and the goons are all over this. So B-Reaver, if McRave doesn't crash, is taking an exit from this tournament. Beautiful fight. We're hoping to have an update. Last year's entry was a splash, but not enough to stop the unstoppable fighting force, which is McRave. And McRave takes this in style 2-0, moves up to losers round 2. And then we have the last game of, or the last match of losers round 2, which will be Zer versus Thomas Weider. And Thomas Weider's bot is called Ximp, and I need not tell you what it does. I will show you. It will build a forge and a couple of cannons, sit back behind that and attack 2 carriers. It has been the most dominant bot ever until the big Terrans like Icebot stopped it, and really the big Protoss still struggle with it, and the Zerg too. So yeah, there you go. There you go, there you go, there you go. You've got the cannons, and the question is, what's Zer going to do? Zer is doing a very suspicious one base sort of play into God knows what, and I can't for the life of me think what this is good for. This is a puny army of Hydras, and yeah, I don't know. This is a very late natural, even for anything really, and the enemy natural has been up for ages. There is a lot of defensive potential in there already. The Stargates are flashing, which means carriers soon. And your Hydra army looks like this. Let's have a count. We've got 18, 20-ish Hydras. Yeah, and good luck busting this with 20 Hydras. First carrier's out. Natural is up, drone count is depressingly low, and there is no transfer going to be done. So I think you are going to find that Ximp will hammer you into the ground shortly if you continue in this vein. And there goes the first group of carriers. It is flying off already, although it hasn't got its full complement of interceptors yet. And that will make it pay, because the Hydras, although they can't beat the cannons, although they're going to try, can't stop these carriers in their tracks. And 4 cannons go down, 5 cannons go down, but now the carriers are getting involved. And you've only got 20 Hydras, of which half is now dead, and you've only got 7 left, and the natural is sort of populated by now, but with only 22 versus 38 workers, it's not going to be all that magnificent. And these 4 carriers together with the couple over here have 29 interceptors. That's not an awful lot, but with only 6 muters, it's clear that Zer doesn't understand what's going on here, what the threat is. And even if it did, its own game plan leaves much to be desired. It's a very late expansion into a handful of Hydras. That's not going to beat anything interesting. And Ximp is just going to build more and more carriers. The second group has arrived in the main. The first group is taking down the natural. And pardon me for speeding it up just a notch, because this is not going to be interesting from a Zerg point of view. And for Protoss not either, but it's just going to be a destruction. So, next game. Yup, GG. Ximp taking it. Next game up. And Zer, my question is, what are you going to do? This time, not a suspiciously bad build order for a 1-base play, although it sort of looks like it. And that is just a very old-fashioned build order, and building Sunkens versus Ximp does not really testify of the best analytical skill in the game. So yeah, there we go. Cannons being put down, small complement of Hydras, still this 1-base thing which isn't hurting anyone. And there we go, 16 times the speed, very late expansion, no drone transfer, and this last game is really... Oh, now there's a bust. Ha! Zer busts the cannons, takes down the natural, and is now going after the carriers, and the ground army of Ximp is not sufficient in force to stop it. So this might not be the last game of Losers Round 2 at all. But the carriers with another Dragoon and another carrier are taking this, and although the natural's still standing, only the cannons are dead. And Zer nearly made that work. And the third base drone transfer goes horribly wrong, but here come the carriers and the Hydras versus 8 carriers. What can you do? So Ximp is looking in a good form. Dropping into the Losers Round, but then making it into Losers Round 3, which is okay. And there we go. So, supposing that Ximp doesn't crash, this was Losers Round 2 and of course Round of 8, or the quarterfinals of the winners bracket of the Student StarCraft AI tournament. You have got a link in your bottom right which you can click if you want to see these bots play 24/7, if you want to learn how to play against them or learn to code this beautiful machinery as well. And also there is a support button which you can press and support us financially on Patreon if you have got other skills which can help us. Mainly like us on YouTube, on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. That would be greatly appreciated as well. And I've got to thank a person unknown to me, goes by the nickname of SSCAIT, which has made the beautiful Wikipedia page, which I was postponing until I had the time for it. So SSCAIT, thank you very much for doing so. It's very much appreciated. So although there is another base started for Zer, these carriers got everything well under control. And the spawning pool will finish, but by now it's going to be a bloody mess. And Ximp taking its time, rebuilding all the cannons. Second carrier fleet, let's off for a while. You can see a relatively tiny army supply, but it's enough to take down Zer. Thank you for playing, see you again next year. And Thomas Weider's Ximp is moving up to Losers Round 3. So after this marathon broadcast, I thank you all for watching and wish you a happy week. We'll be back again next Sunday with the semi-finals and the next loser round. For then, I say goodbye and see you again soon.